Good morning, everybody. John here at Havoc Maker Studio. Today, unlike yesterday, we're going to do part 4 of the top 5 villains that are needed for Atomic Mass Games Marvel Crisis Protocol. Now, this is my top 5 list based on a number of factors, including the recent MCU era, the comic books, the cartoons, even video games. I'm combining it all based on their popularity, how they'll be on the tabletop, bright colored costumes and goofiness to, their rising popularity in various forms of media. Now, I've already covered the Spider foes. We've covered X-Men's foes. We've covered... Goodness, who else have we covered? Why can't I think of who else we covered, guys? Help me out here. Fantastic Four. There we go, man. Today, we're going to cover the Defenders. People are like, ugh, the Defenders. Not the MCU Defenders necessarily, not the Defenders, but it's actually encompassing the comic book, the Defenders, the originals through the years, the Champions, the original Champions comics, not the new one with like the kids, and the MCU Defenders. I know, rip Iron Fist. And also we're going to include the Heroes for Hire, all versions of all of those. We're going to jam in here because it looks to be like Defenders is kind of I hate to use the term because it's my favorite group, and my favorite comics, not necessarily my favorite group in the game, but it's like a dumping ground for characters. And so we're going to take all those villains, which are very not well-known villains, but they are amazing villains. I think would be great on the tabletop. And in recent years, they've gotten a lot of attention from Marvel Comics in their various forms of media. So first up, as you can see here, I want you guys to head over to my friend Chris's webpage. It's his blogspot called Friendly Neighborhood Web Warrior. Despite the name, it has articles concerning everything Marvel Crisis Protocol. He's been doing this since January. He's got out a little bit over a dozen articles right now, it looks like, and ranging everything from the Web Warriors, his passion, to the Adepticon, to new amazing models like Dr. Voodoo, who has been popping up in like every list, it seems like, and a variety of new teams, team ups, and such. Now, if you are brand new to the game, this is a good resource for you, especially getting at the ground up. You don't have hundreds of articles to look at. Now, if you've already involved in the hobby and you're wanting to expand your knowledge or your efficiency in playing the game, and you're maybe even wanting to delve into a little bit more of the tournament side. I don't want to say competitive, because if you're playing this game against somebody, even the AI, you're already competing. We've talked about that before. But if you're wanting to be a more efficient competitor or player, or start aiming for that tournament side of the game, which is actually a really amazing community as opposed to some other games that we're not going to talk about, this is a great resource for you. I will have that link in the description below, so please give Chris and his page a look over it, because he's been starting to pop up on a couple websites, and I'm working on getting a face-to-face interview with him so we can just kind of have some fun and hash it out, and maybe even do a live one in the future with him and his friend, or our friend Richard. Some really good insights that we can get from these guys, because I'm not on the tournament side so much, or I just kind of go all willy-nilly when I'm playing with my models, where they're a little bit more efficient and they can see all the ins and outs with all the cards. So it'd be a cool clash of play types, and that we can sit there and answer and ask questions of each other, and you guys can interact with us. So let's get into the top 5 Defenders villains, and let me know what you guys think about these. So first up is a guy I've talked about the other day. He was an honorable mention for Spider foes, and somebody even said, hey man, what about Tombstone? I got you covered, man. We already mentioned him as an honorable mention, but Tombstone is a villain for Daredevil. He is a villain for Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and of course, Spider-Man. Now, Tombstone, Lonnie Lincoln, we might see him in the near future. He popped up in the most recent Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse cartoon, and we've seen him in the various Spider-Man cartoons throughout the years. So we could have a good chance of seeing him pop up. He's had a slight resurgence a few years ago in the Spider-Man comics. Now, Lonnie Lincoln is a black man that got exposed to a preservative gas. Now, this preservative gas made him more than just albino. As you can see, his skin is almost like a pallid gray, and he got some superpowers from that exposure to this weird preservative gas. I don't know how that works, but he got it. Well, then again, if you're getting bit by a radioactive spider and not dying of radiation poisoning, then I guess anything can happen, right? Now, Tombstone has he's a little bit weak sauce when it comes to super strength. He can only lift 6 tons. That's right. He can only lift 6 tons, only 12,000 pounds ish. So he's a little weak sauce when you compare to like 100 tons like Hulk and Thor. But when you compare him to, say, I don't know, Daredevil, who can maybe lift 300 pounds, it's actually pretty gosh darn significant. But so with that super strength that he has, he also has the stamina to back it up, because the muscle density and everything that goes alongside of that, that's very typical to have superhuman physicality. If you got the strength, you got the stamina, you got the endurance, and everything goes alongside it. The other big claim to fame he has is almost diamond hard skin, and he's able to withstand high caliber bullets. I'm not talking like tank rounds, but 50 caliber rounds and under. He can take explosions, minor blast of force energy or whatever, depending on the source. We know that he can withstand like 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit and considerably like a below 100 or around a minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit in a cold. We know he can withstand a lot of temperature variations. So he is definitely a powerhouse when you compare him to the average guy, like, say, Daredevil. Now, he did at one point take over the international crime syndicate called Magia, which is basically Marvel Comics Mafia. Now, I think this would be great on the tabletop. Obviously, with Tombstone, he'd have a wide variety of powers that he could or attacks with his physicality. We can throw stuff. He's going to have some damage resistance. Just kind of maybe even kind of a weaker Luke Cage, but give him some leadership abilities, and then give him the grunt base of these mobsters, these mafia mobsters, with, which I think, like, on the tabletop, it's going to look really good. They're going to have a nice long range attack, maybe range 4 attack. It's not going to do a lot of damage, but they're going to have it, and probably have something to where they can maybe the opposite of what grunts can do now, or maybe just really enhance what grunts could do right now. I think this would be a great combination. I didn't include him on Spider Foes because there was 5 other better versions, and plus I still didn't get to, say, the Rhino, or kind of the Prowler, and a few other characters. So I think Tombstone would be really good to have as our number 5 here. Now, he's in competition with the next one. I didn't know where to put these two, so I just went this route: the Red Ghost and Super-Apes. Now, some people are like, is this a joke? Are we a joke to you, John? Trust me, Red Ghost and the Super-Apes are not some Hanna-Barbera era cartoon. They are a legit supervillain team from I want to say it's the late 60s. So this is during, not the Red Scare, but kind of the Cold War era, which a lot of these characters, a lot of Marvel characters originated from. He was the leader, Red Ghost. I think his name was Ivan, Russian last name. Insert whatever you want in there. He was a genius, super genius level guy. And he was like, you know what? I'm working for the Soviet Union. I want to create for the Soviet Union, Mother Russia, our own version of the Fantastic Four, but better. And so he tried it, and well, in a way, it worked. Him and his apes became super powered. Now they've had a up and down history throughout the comics. They have fought for the bad guys a lot of times, like or fought against them, like fought against the Sinister Six a couple times, but their big opponents have been superheroes, mainly the Fantastic Four, obviously, sometimes the Avengers, and of course they have fought against the Heroes for Hire and the Defenders over the years. Now, why do I include these guys? What could they possibly give? It's a bit of a stretch. I probably should have made these guys number 5, but you know what? I think they just kind of tickle my fancy in a way, because I think they'd be great on the tabletop as a leader and as a grunt base. Now, Red Ghost has a variety of abilities. His main claim to fame is intangibility. So he can obviously, if we were to give him on the tabletop, he would be able to move through terrain with no problem. He can also enter kind of a mist form because he is a ghost. Ooh, not like an undead ghost. Like that's just his power. You know what I mean? So give him, quote, flight and medium movement, easy to pass through terrain with that almost always on, that always active intangibility, give him some high physical and energy defenses, and then give him some sort of ability to bring out the super-apes. The super-apes could be a grunt base, and this would be on that maybe the higher end of the grunt base, kind of like if my predictions about the Warriors 3 being a grunt base come true, it'd be on the higher end, because the gorilla has super strength. I don't know what his super strength rating is. I was having a hard time finding that, but I would say definitely around the Tombstone level. So probably say 3 to 6 tons he could probably lift. And then the orangutan is I don't want to say master magnetism, but he can control magnetism. He is not quite on the level of Magneto, but he can control, he has control of magnetism. And then the baboon, for all it's worth, is able to transform into other objects at will. Now, I don't know if those other objects, like if he transformed into a gun, does the gun shoot? And if it shoots, what is it shooting? Is it like baboon poop pellets? I'm not sure. But I think that would potentially be a great grunt base. I'm not quite sure how it would work out. It'd probably, like I said, be on the higher end of maybe their damage and resilience output. I think really you sell this as a single box with Red Ghost and a large base with the super apes as grunts, and stack it full of team tactic cards, like at least 5 team tactic cards, at least 5, maybe pushing to shield tactics level, or the shield box of 10 cards. I think it would be good because he's also, like I said, a villain for Fantastic Four. He's fought the Avengers, but I think as a dumping ground for Defenders villains, this would be definitely a contender. I might need to switch him, but we're not talking about that right now. The next one I want to talk about is Typhoid Mary. Now, Typhoid Mary has gotten a lot of attention over the years. She's been around since the late 80s, I believe. She has been a major villain for Daredevil and sometimes Lover, but always getting betrayed or beaten up by Daredevil. Tell you what, if there's any character that could have a lawsuit against a superhero and win, it would be Typhoid Mary or Mary Walker. Daredevil has accidentally or intentionally done a lot of bad things to Typhoid Mary. Now, Typhoid Mary suffers from dissociative identity disorder, DID. A lot of you are going to be familiar with that if you are mainly just an MCU fan. And you've been watching and reading up on Moon Knight, Mark Spector, who suffers from that as well. Now, she's got at least 5 different personalities. One is kind of a timid, shy. One is kind of an assertive one. She has a military style one when she joined the Avengers Initiative. But it's the other two, Typhoid Mary, which is a lustful, adventurous, fighty girl, like Tomb Raider style, but a little bit meaner. And then we have Bloody Mary, which is a very sadistic, evil version. Now you might be like, well, okay, so we got a crazy girl with knives. Yeah, we got a crazy girl with knives, with close combat abilities, normal human physicality, speed, strength, and toughness and everything like that. So, John, why do we want her besides being crazy and kind of weird hot? Well, she also has mutant powers. She is a mutant with 3 different abilities: pyrokinesis, which she usually envelops her weapons with flames. She can do a little bit of an energy production, but we're not talking like Human Torch or Sunspot or not Firestorm, but goodness gracious, I can't think of the Japanese X-Men with the energy, the solar power. You guys can put it in the comments below who I'm talking about. But she is able to do some levels of energy projection. She mainly coats her weapons with it, but she can shoot people. So she also has telepathy. Now this telepathy is limited. It's mainly used for just kind of like overriding certain parts of the brain, maybe putting people to sleep or kind of seducing them, that sort of thing. It's not like full-on Jean Grey or Cassandra Nova level of telepathy. And then her telekinesis is another on the low end, but it's there. But when you put it in the hands of, say, a sadistic, close combat, knifey, stabby stab person like Typhoid Mary, who likes to throw daggers and shurikens and everything, all of a sudden that telekinesis is pretty gosh darn amazing. Now she's not lifting hundreds of tons. I think she's less than like 20 or 30 pounds with her telekinesis. But like I said, when you combine it with throwing daggers, throwing knives, all of a sudden it becomes extremely lethal. So why do we want to include her on the tabletop? Well, she's already going to be an amazing character to put on there. And our number 2 spot would be a great pairing for the box. She's been appearing in the comics a lot frequently. She just a major appearance in Devil's Reign. She's married to the Kingpin. Yep. Crazy girl is married to the Kingpin. They've been married for some time now. And they're actually living the dream, I guess, that supervillains have. And from all appearances, they love each other. I guess when you're sick, crazy people, then that just happens. So she was also going to be popping up in the Netflix series for Daredevil and Iron Fist as a potential villain. I believe she was already cast, but we've got that canceled on Netflix. We might see that reemergence coming up with it now being on Disney Plus, even though they've said it's canon, and then they backtracked and said Daredevil is not canon. I don't know where they're at with it yet, so we're just going to ignore it for now and hope that if they don't reboot it, but they just do a new continuation of Daredevil, because I really don't want them to start over again. So that is our number 3. I think she is definitely a contender for the tabletop, especially if we get into more street level characters. Now, I think she'll be great paired up with the following characters. Some of you will know, some of you will be like, who the F is this, John? Well, we got Purple Man. People are like, God damn, this guy's Purple Man? What kind of power is that? Or some people are like, oh my God, Purple Man, you're right. Purple Man is a very, very, very bad man. He is a very evil individual. For those of you familiar with the MCU or the Netflix shows, he popped up in the Jessica Jones TV show, and he's pretty much the whole reason Jessica Jones is who she is now and why she stopped running around as a superhero, which I think her superhero identity was Diamondback. No, that was a super villain named Diamondback. I'm not sure I don't remember what her name was. Anyways, so this gentleman has been around since the 60s. He was a Russian spy. This if you're starting to see that pattern unfold here, most of these heroes and villains are 1960s, that Cold War era. He was a spy. He got exposed to some nerve gas over the course of his career. I think several times he got exposed to this one particular nerve gas and developed a mind control power through pheromones. Now, these pheromones are administered through touch or smell, and he has had a major rise in the comics. I'll get to that in a moment. But his ability allows him to control upwards, well, originally upwards around 100 people, but now much more. All right. Now, you might be like, well, okay, he's got mind control power. How does that apply onto the tabletop? Well, not a lot of good control characters out there, not a lot of control characters out there where you can take control of characters, on the tabletop when we're talking about Marvel Crisis Protocol. You can give this guy a lot of powers or abilities that force, regardless if you do damage or not, force whoever the target of your attack is to move away or drop any sort of secure objectives they might have, or tokens. And then, of course, maybe accessing other people's powers and having them use against other people. There's all sorts of really cool things that you can do as a control character, because on his physicality side, he is super weak sauce. He's not like quite Aunt May, Happy Hogan level, but he's definitely not Nick Fury level. He's somewhere in between. He's definitely fit. He's definitely has some fighting ability, but he is not a close combatant. He has other people do that for him. You could include a grunt base with him of just civilians. All right. And that could be a really cool thing, because we don't see civilians in the game, but I don't know if we'll actually see that pop up. He does have a minor healing factor, or I should say accelerated healing. We're not talking Wolverine level, but at least in the comics, but he definitely is known for an accelerated healing. That's part of his exposure to all those different gases. Somehow nerve gas did this to him. And so they can just give him a healing factor of a 1, give him low stats across the board. I'm talking like Honey Badger level stats. And you give him that mind control power, and that's really where you focus. Give him a bunch of team tactic cards, give him a host of superpowers and reactive superpowers, maybe just one attack, and bam, you got probably one of the best control characters in the game right now. I think Dr. Voodoo is right now the leading contender for that. Then you package him with Typhoid Mary, call it a day. So, bam, we got 2 villains in a box. Now, this last character I've talked about before, and this is going to be our number 1. And after I'm done talking about this number 1, I'm going to kind of segue into the rumor to back up this character. You might have caught it before, but let's go ahead and rehash it here. Let's talk about the Executioner, or Scourge. Now, some of you might be familiar with him more from the comics, and some of you might know him from the MCU. He was played by Karl Urban in the Thor Ragnarok movie, which was an amazing movie. And he did actually a really good job. There were some really funny moments, and there were some really amazing moments, including some iconic moments. One particular iconic moment that was in the comics that translated over, and I was super ecstatic when I saw it in the Thor Ragnarok. The scene where he has his 2 M16s, the old school original M16s, and was on top of the bodies and defending the Asgardians. It was a little different in the comics, but he was basically holding the line, killing off the enemy. And they reproduced that in Thor Ragnarok from the comics, and it's such an awesome, iconic scene, especially when you see a villain kind of turn around and do something good, and it's such a good scene. I was really super excited about that. Now, the Executioner is normally associated with Enchantress and sometimes Hela and Loki. He is an Asgardian, and so he has all the Asgardian abilities. The speed, the stamina, the durability, the ability to speak all different languages, all that sort of stuff. But he also is stronger, almost, I would say, definitely double that of the average Asgardian. That's due to he is half Asgardian, half Storm Giant. So he's able to lift only 65 tons. I know that's not a lot, but 65 tons. I know Thor can lift over 100 tons, but when you compare him to, say, the Warriors 3, who are the average Asgardians, I think they're around 30 tons, he is definitely a cut above the rest. And you take in the fact that he is a combat junkie, that he has some of the best weapon and martial art combat abilities out there, he would definitely have a whole variety of attacks. He would have all the normal Asgardian stuff that we see coming out of the Asgardians right now. And we can mainly focus on his axe called the Blood Axe. This is basically it's a divine weapon used for killing divine beings. So you could give him some maybe piercing against Asgardians as a innate ability if you wanted to. But the axe gives him obviously the close combat abilities, the enhanced damage. He can also do force blast, basically energy blast, with that axe. So that gives him a nice ranged ability, say a range 3, probably range 4 energy blast. That'll cost him power, but low on the power, middling dice, and maybe some extra effects. It also gives him the power to teleport, which we're starting to see a lot more movement characters, like Magic, Lockjaw. Hopefully we'll get some more teleporting characters in here, and Executioner would be the perfect opportunity. Yeah, he's not really well known for that, but give him that teleporting power, and now he's got a wide variety. He's definitely an excellent character to put in there. And yeah, mainly he's an Asgardian villain, but he is in the top 10 list of villains that have crossed paths with the Defenders. And some of those Defenders have crossed paths with them when they were part of the New Avengers, or in the various realms of all the different teams. They've almost everybody, not everybody on the Defenders, but the Defenders, the Champions, Heroes for Hire, and whatnot have clashed with them. I think he would be a great addition for this list. Now, this isn't an anti-Defenders affiliation. I wouldn't even know what they would call it, but just to get some more villains out there, this is why we put them on here as this top 5 list. Now, there are a variety of other classic comic book Defender villains, but they're really hokey, and I had to scrape the bottoms. The Defenders the affiliation is kind of a dumping ground for various teams like Heroes for Hire, the original Champions, obviously the Defenders comics, and the Defenders MCU. So I hate to say that because I really like the Defenders, but it really is. So if we make a new group, new affiliation, or at least not even affiliation, just give a dumping ground for these type of characters. So they can go anywhere: Cabal, Asgardians, Criminal Syndicate, whatever you want to do. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this top 5 list. Am I right about this? Can you guys see these characters on the tabletop? And depending on what you guys know about them, did I miss any powers that we could see effectively on the tabletop? That'd be really cool. And if I missed a character or two for the Defenders, the Champions, I'm talking the original Champions like Hercules and Iceman, Angel, and a few others, or Heroes for Hire, either version of the Heroes for Hire, even Daughters of the Dragon like Misty Knight and Colleen Wong in them, and of course the MCU Defenders. If I missed some villains that should be on there that are already not out, let me know in those comments below. I love interacting with you guys. I love being able to communicate back and forth with you. I prefer in the comments, though I don't mind the emails or the occasional, if you know me on Facebook, send me a Facebook message, but I like the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so we can make sure you're entered in for this month's giveaways, which is going to be in 21 days. And then I'm going to be doing something different in May, so stay tuned for that. But if you're subscribed right now, congratulations. you're automatically entered into all future giveaways. Anyways, you guys have yourself a wonderful weekend. My name is John. This is Havoc Maker Studio, and I'll talk to you later.